Hey everyone, Action here. How are you doing? So it has been a while since the latest dev diary, which was in the last month, but that doesn't mean that we don't have good news, because the devs continue to talk about the latest features and the upcoming ones in the Discord server, and we also have the open beta which is up and running for the Stellaris patch 4.5, and also some of these changes are going to massively impact the gameplay, especially because of the willpower DLC, which is gonna be basically an overhaul of the entire Ethic system. On top of that, we have some good news for those of us that want Starbase Customization. This has been a long requested feature by many players in the community, including myself, and we are finally getting some changes to that. And also we have some new ideas about the possible Nanite rework that we'll be getting later on. Now, without further ado, let's get into the actual news. One of the major frustrations about players is the AI in Stellaris. It has been terrible for a very long time. After you get to learn the game and you defeat your first couple of crises, the AI is pretty much negligible in most of your runs. However, they are getting a very good update to how they design their ships, and this change will also favor some of you that use the auto ship designer, which has been terrible in the past. Now we'll be getting a brand new set of policies, and we'll be able to choose which type of weapon we prefer to use, whether that's energy, kinetic, hangers, and etc. on top of specializations for all of our ships. This will, for the majority of the player base, not change that much for our own custom ships, because we tend to create our own designs to either counter the enemy or a specific crisis, and not always relying on the auto designer. But this is majorly going to impact the AI, because currently the AI ship design is based off of their personalities, and their personalities are kinda outdated. They don't produce very good ships. As a matter of fact, their ships loadout are all over the place. Yeah, it's a mess. But the AI will be making use of these new policies, which means that we'll have a better idea about what they are running. So some AIs will have a balanced design, others will have kinetic, others will have energy, and this also comes for their defensive capabilities. They can choose between a balanced approach in armor and shields, or choosing one of those to favor. That's quite good, because we can then modify our own ships to counter a very specific design if we do have intel about their ship components. So let's say, for instance, you're fighting a determined exterminator right next to your empire, and you are severely outmatched in terms of fleet power. If you build a spy network and you discover that they have the majority of their weapons as energy and the majority of their defenses as armor, you already know that you're gonna pair energy weapons plus shields to counter their own loadouts. This can give you a massive advantage in the early game. Later down the line, we obviously outscale the AI in terms of economy, so it doesn't really matter if you're countering their design or not. But in the early and mid game, when we do need to make war against the AI to continue to snowball our economy, this is perhaps a very good change. And this is also valid for starbases, because as of now we have literally no way of customizing our starbases. What we can do is just to build weapon, hangar, or missile modules on them, but even those components, they are kinda randomized. Sometimes you want neutron launchers, but they're gonna get just regular torpedoes in your starbases. Like, why would a starbase use a torpedo? Or sometimes you want to have plasma cannons or kinetic weapons, they just build autocannons on the starbase. But now we will be able to at least choose which type of defenses and weapons the starbase will prioritize. It is not gonna be a one-to-one component. You can choose every single component in the starbase, and sometimes the starbase will still make weird decisions like building autocannons. It doesn't fix that issue, at least for now. However, one information that came from the Stellaris official Discord server is that one of the devs is testing the mechanics that we have on ARC ships being implemented on the starbases. Now, for those of you who haven't played as nomads before, what we have on the ARC ships is that we can customize the loadouts with the modules. We have specific modules for each type of weapon and defensive components on them. So for instance, if you want to have Zroll launchers, you can equip the ARC ship with a specific module for the Zroll launchers. If you want take on lenses, you do the same. If you want kinetic batteries, you do the same. If you want shields and armor, you get the idea. And the good part is that it has modules for literally every single component in the game. So although it is not a one-to-one customization, you cannot choose individually what each component is going to be, you still have a very good flexibility around your build. Now let me know what you guys think. Do you like the way we customize our arc ships in the Nomads, and would you like to customize the starbases the same way, or would you prefer to keep things as they are currently? So let's see what all of this look like in an actual gameplay in the Stellaris open beta. Here we have a save for a regular bioship empire, and if we go here over the policies tab, we can see that they have grouped the policies into 5 categories, which makes the UI a little bit better, more pleasing to see, because we have a lot of policies in Stellaris. So going over the military policies, we have the defense preference, the weapon preference. Those two, they're gonna be on your ships. If we take the game date a little bit, it's gonna appear the Starbase defense and the Starbase weapon preferences as well. These function the same way as the ones from your ships, however they update automatically once you shift the policy. So here we have a Starbase weapon preference of energy weapons, and the defenses are shields. If we take a look at our bastion here, we have the energy weapons armament and we have mostly shields, but we still have a lot of medium autocannons, which is terrible because they are short range. We currently do not have the modules that the devs hinted in the Stellaris Discord server. If we equip something like a hangar bay, we can't choose what type of strike craft that is, even though we may have access to these row bombers, the psionic bombers actually. On the defensive capabilities on your buildings, that is the same way. I would expect that once those changes come online, we're gonna have the shields and armor components here on the buildings, as well as perhaps some aura emitters, which we already have by the way, but we could even see something like a Titan or Juggernaut auras being implemented here. That would be pretty fun. And here on the modules, it would be more of our offensive capabilities with different types of strike crafts, X slots, medium slots, L slots as well. Unfortunately, there are still some weapons that we can't customize. As you can see, by dismantling literally everything from our citadel, we are still going to have some components like we have medium bioplasma cannons and the autocannons, even though we have the energy weapons preference for our starbases. So yeah, it's not 100% accurate in what it does, but at least it's something, right? And to be honest with you, this is all still subject to change. It is an open beta, right? So you guys can even deliver your own feedback to the devs in the Stellaris Discord server, or here in the video. If the devs watch this video, perhaps they're gonna read the comments as well. But currently it is not perfect, but it is better than what currently is. Now let's take a look at what this does to the AI empires. Here we can take a look at the DRR directive. If you go here over the policies, they have balanced defenses and energy weapons. I believe that the reason the AI does not have any type of Starbase preferences is that they just go over with the old designs, I believe, because it only appears here if we play as the AI empire. So if we take control of their empire, otherwise it simply won't appear at all. But anyways, going back to the ships, they have balanced defenses, energy weapons. We go over the ship design. The Exterminator, very fitting name, they have only red lasers and a balanced defensive capabilities. And mind you, this is gonna maintain throughout the entire gameplay. So let's take a look at the Hifaran Tapestry, another AI. They have balanced defenses, and this time they have kinetic weapons. If you take a look at their corvettes, they have only small mass drivers, the kinetic ones. So let's take a look at what all of this looks like in the end game to see if the AI maintains the same patterns. We're gonna load up a very advanced save from the same seed basically, and let's take a look at the Hifanaran Tapestry. They maintain the same defense preference of balanced and the weapon preference of kinetic. Let's take a look at what they do with all their ships. The corvettes only kinetic, this one autocannon meant for more close range combat, and the difference between those two is that one is slightly more advanced, containing dark matter components, but this empire has a very little dark matter production, so it is even quite good to see that the the AI has two different designs, meaning that it will build this design when it does not have dark matter, but when it does have, they're gonna prioritize the ones that have the dark matter component. The frigates, also kinetic, destroyers, two types of destroyers, short range, long range, the cruisers as well, but just two variations between regular and dark matter components, and the battleships, they have only line. These guys, they are not running any type of strike craft. I believe that's because they have the spearhead doctrine, which means that their ships are gonna go point blank range. Let's see if their actual fleets represent that. So they have battleships, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and the majority of it comes from the offspring corvette. So they are following their doctrine. Now let's take a look at the Alarian League, because they have a very unique fleet doctrine of phalanx. It is the only AI in the save that has this doctrine. If we take a look at their ships, they have the energy weapon preference, but they only have one loadout for every single one of their ships, which is quite something. But for instance, if you were going against these guys, it would be extremely easy to counter them. You just had to get shields on your ships and they wouldn't do any type of damage. Looking at the other type of AI that we have here, which has the fleet doctrine as battle line, we are expecting them to have the mid-range weapons. They still follow the same designs as just kinetic weapons, with the majority of their defensive components as armor due to the defensive preferences, but it is still weird to not see any type of hangars or missiles in literally any AI in this game. So they all have kinetic energy. These guys, the wilderness expands, they do have explosive weapons, but since they have the bioships, well, they don't have explosives. So you can see that it is not perfect yet. Perhaps the devs are still gonna make some changes to the ship designs for the AI, but it is certainly a lot better than what it is today, where the AIs just build whatever they want and based on their personalities, and you get like those really randomized designs. At least now we know what we are dealing with, even though it is not the most optimal and diverse out there. I have hopes that it will get better. Now another thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is the new faction and effix system. What we currently have is that for every single effix that we have in our empire, we're gonna have a different pop group for every single strata. So for this empire we have spiritualist and authoritarian effix, as you can see. So in our current version of Stellaris, we would have two separate groups of clan elites. We would have an authoritarian and a spiritualist one. However, in the open beta they got merged together and they now represent a percentage of the entire population of that strata. So here the spiritualists represent 72% of this entire group, the authoritarian the other 28%. This goes for all the stratas in the game, which means that lag should be significantly reduced, because the modifiers, they get calculated for each pop group individually, and in the current version we have a lot of them, especially if you have a lot of effix as well. Here for some reason we even have a little bit of materialist effix, because we have the natural sociologist trait, and it is a good addition that we can now have a much better outlook at what changes the effix of our empire. That's going to be extremely useful for the willpower DLC, which is going to be centered around the effix. So here we have two types of attraction, the local attraction and the global attraction. Just running some calculations, you'll find out that both of them are multiplicative with each other, and in my personal experience it is much harder to acquire global attraction than it is to acquire local attraction, because if you take a look at the modifiers, the governing effix attraction and spiritualist effix attraction are things that you can get in pretty much a lot of events. You can get those from the One Vision Ascension perk, you can get those from agendas. If you run something like Preserve the Order, you're gonna get plus 40% authoritarian effix attraction, which is going to affect the local attraction. Now the global attraction is much more, how can I say this, fixed, right? You have the authoritarian effect and not many other sources. One thing that I also noticed is that promoting and demoting factions have a huge effect on these attractions. If we stop promoting them, you can see that the spiritualist effect attraction on the local one goes down to plus 5%, because we only have a very small temple here. Now if we go back and activate it, and now let's go to 105%. The same goes for all ethics in that faction. So the other faction here is authoritarian. We promote it. Let's suppress this one to see the effects. If you go ahead, authoritarian ethics attraction minus 35%. That's because it reduces it by 75%, not 100% as the boost option does. But anyway, commanders, right now these ethic changes, they are not that huge because we currently don't use this system very much. But for the willpower DLC, that's gonna be very important. At last but not least, we have more information about the possible Nanite rework. In one of our latest videos, we already covered what the devs were thinking about doing with the Nanite Ascension, and now we have even another source of information. One of the devs shared their plans on what they are thinking about doing with the Nanite Swarmers. Now, one of the main issues with the Nanite Ascension is the amount of lag it gets from its numerous ships. After all, the Nanite Ascension is all about swarming your opponents, but Stellaris does not handle lag very well, and thus ships are a major issue, and Nanite Ascension basically never gets the full experience because of that. However, they are thinking about a different approach. I used to play a lot of Star Wars Empire at War, and in that game we had a mechanic where smaller vessels were merged into squadrons, and you would command the entire group at once, not each individual fighter. So that looks like a similar direction to what they are going for here with the Nanite Swarmers. If you can see, there are 6 Nanite Swarmers here, and we have 3 sections that we can customize. Now the customization option, it is very interesting, but what really caught my attention in the screenshot is the actual Nanite growth. If you take a look at these, it has the growth type incremental. What it does, I'm not that sure. It also has a required growth progress, monthly growth progress, and on top of that, the naval capacity usage is double of the ship size, which is exactly the same thing for the bioships in the Elder stage. So it looks like the Nanite Swarmers, they will grow over time, and they also have a cost of 4,000 nanites for this saturated stage, meaning that perhaps we could build them at the final stage already, not waiting for them to grow. This is very interesting to see, but of course it is still subject to change. So let me know what you guys think about this, if you like this new approach, a new type of growth in Stellaris for ships, or if you think that this could actually hurt the game because of the lag. As some of you may know, bioships, they introduced a lot of lag with the growth mechanics. But anyway, commanders, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, don't forget to leave that like button because it helps me out a lot. And as always, commanders, I'll see you guys next time.